I stared at my phone, heart pounding as I read the message again. My boss, the woman I'd secretly admired for months, had just texted me to come to her hotel room. The same boss who knew I was struggling as a single father. The same boss who held my career in her hands. "Don't knock," the message ended. What was waiting behind that door? I took a deep breath and headed upstairs, wondering if this moment would change everything. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more original content that explores the complicated moments life throws our way. Your support means everything. The conference had started like any other. 3 days in Chicago, staying at the Palmer Grand Hotel, a luxury I couldn't afford on my own salary, but the company covered it. As the marketing director, Elise Chen always stayed on the executive floor, while the rest of us were scattered throughout the lower levels. I'd been with Meridian Publishing for 4 years, working my way up from copywriter to senior editor, all while raising my daughter Sophie after her mother left when she was just 2. Elise knew my situation. She'd been surprisingly understanding about the occasional missed meeting when Sophie was sick, or the times I had to leave early for school events. Unlike previous bosses who saw my single parenthood as a liability, Elise seemed to respect it. Family first, work second, she'd say, though she herself seemed to live by the opposite rule, working 16-hour days and traveling constantly. That evening, after the day's panels ended, I'd called Sophie at my sister's house where she was staying during the conference. "Dad, when are you coming home?" she asked, her voice small through the phone. "Just 2 more days, sweetheart." "Are you being good for Aunt Jen?" "Yeah. We made cookies. I saved you some. That's my girl. I love you to the moon." And back and around the stars, she finished our ritual, giggling. After hanging up, I headed to the hotel bar where the team was gathering. I nursed a single whiskey, watching as colleagues networked and laughed. Publishing was all about connections, and I knew I should be mingling, but my mind kept drifting to Sophie. At 36, I'd accepted that my romantic life was on indefinite hold. Between work and raising a daughter alone, there simply wasn't time. Elise entered the bar around 9, commanding attention in her tailored navy suit. She made her rounds, speaking briefly with each group before stopping at my table. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, not waiting for an answer before sliding into the booth. "How's Sophie?" she asked, surprising me. I hadn't realized she remembered my daughter's name. "She's good. Missing me, but good." Elise nodded, swirling her martini. "It must be hard, balancing everything." "Some days are better than others," I admitted. "Your manuscript edits on the Peterson book were excellent," she said, changing subjects abruptly. "I've been meaning to tell you that you're being considered for the senior acquisitions position." My heart skipped. That position meant more money, more stability for Sophie. "Thank you. I'd be honored." She studied me for a moment. "You know, I grew up with a single dad too." This was new information. In 4 years, Elise had never shared personal details. "He worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat," she continued. "I barely saw him, but I knew everything he did was for me." There was something vulnerable in her expression I'd never seen before. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. She stood, straightening her jacket. "Don't stay up too late. Tomorrow's sessions start at 8. I watched her leave, wondering about the glimpse of humanity she'd shown. Elise Chen was known for her brilliant business mind and uncompromising standards, not for sharing childhood memories. Back in my room, I tried to focus on preparation for tomorrow's presentation but found myself distracted. At 11:30, my phone buzzed with a text. "Single dad, come to my room. 15:42, but don't knock." I read it 3 times, convinced I was misinterpreting. Was this a professional request? At this hour? Or something else entirely? And why specify not to knock? The elevator ride to the 15th floor gave me time to imagine every possible scenario. Perhaps she wanted to discuss the promotion privately. Or maybe she'd had too much to drink and would regret this tomorrow. Worst case, this was some kind of test, one that could cost me my job if I misunderstood. Standing outside room 1542, I hesitated. The "Do Not Disturb" sign hung from the doorknob. I raised my hand to knock, then remembered her instruction. Instead, I texted, "I'm here." The door opened almost immediately. Elise stood there, no longer in her business suit but in hotel-provided pajamas, her face scrubbed clean of makeup, looking younger and somehow more human. "Come in," she said, her voice oddly tight. "And thank you for coming." The room was dimly lit, papers spread across the bed and desk. A half-empty bottle of wine sat on the nightstand. "I apologize for the late hour," she said, gesturing for me to sit in the armchair while she perched on the edge of the bed. "And for the cryptic message. Is everything okay?" I asked, noticing her reddened eyes. She took a deep breath. "No. I just got a call from my father's caregiver. He had a stroke tonight." "I'm so sorry," I said, understanding now why she'd reached out. "Is he?" "He's stable, but it was serious. I need to fly to San Francisco first thing tomorrow." She ran a hand through her hair. "The problem is, I'm supposed to present the new acquisition strategy to the board members who are here." I nodded, beginning to understand. "You need me to cover for you?" "Yes. But it's more complicated than that." She handed me a folder from the bed. "These are the complete projections. Some of this information is sensitive, strategy the rest of the team hasn't seen yet." I flipped through the pages, seeing immediately that this was high-level material, the kind that determined company direction for years to come. "Why me?" I asked. "Wouldn't Thomas or Rebecca make more sense? They're VPs." Elise was quiet for a moment. "Because you remind me of my father," she finally said. "The way you put Sophie first, how you never complain about the load you're carrying. I trust you." The admission hung in the air between us, shifting something fundamental in our relationship. "I asked you not to knock because I didn't want anyone in the hallway seeing you come to my room this late," she explained. "Office gossip is brutal, especially for women in leadership." I nodded, understanding completely. "What time is your flight?" 6 a.m. "I've already arranged for a car." She handed me another folder. "This is everything you need to know for the presentation. I've made notes where you should emphasize certain points." We spent the next hour going through the materials, Elise explaining nuances and answering my questions. As the clock approached 1 a.m., I noticed her exhaustion. "You should rest," I said. "I've got this." She looked at me with genuine gratitude. "Thank you, Daniel. This means more than you know." As I gathered the materials to leave, she added, "My father would like you." "I hope I get to meet him someday," I replied. "I hope so too." The next morning, I delivered Elisa's presentation to the board members. I explained her absence without details, respecting her privacy, and proceeded to outline the acquisition strategy with the confidence she'd instilled in me. The board was impressed, not just with the strategy, but with my command of it. When the conference ended, I returned home to Sophie, who tackled me with hugs and stale cookies. Life resumed its normal rhythm, but something had changed. Elise and I had crossed a boundary from purely professional to something more complex, not romantic, but a connection based on mutual respect and shared understanding. 3 weeks later, Elise returned to the office. She called me in first thing. "My father's recovering well," she said. "And the board approved the strategy unanimously. They were particularly impressed with your presentation. I'm glad I could help." She slid a document across her desk. It was an offer letter for the senior acquisitions position, with a salary that exceeded my expectations. "This isn't because of that night," she clarified. You earned this long before then. But that night confirmed what I already knew, you're someone people can count on. I thought about how a simple text had changed everything. Not in the way some might have assumed from those words, "Come to my room," but in a way that was ultimately more meaningful. It had created a bridge of trust between two people who understood the weight of responsibility, of caring for others above yourself. "There's one more thing," Elise said. "My father asked if you and Sophie might join us for dinner next weekend. He's eager to meet the man who saved his daughter in a crisis." I smiled, thinking how life's most important moments often come disguised as ordinary decisions. A text message. A hotel room. A choice to help someone in need. "We'd be honored," I replied. Sometimes the most unexpected connections form not from grand gestures, but from simple acts of humanity, showing up when someone needs you, without question or expectation. In that hotel room, I hadn't found romance or scandal, but something far more valuable, authentic human connection and the recognition that we're all just trying our best to take care of the people who matter most.